Hello, welcome back to the conservatory. Seems like a lot of you found the previous video where I was discussing the differences between the J and the K models, then the airboxes and the inlets, quite useful. And it was pointed out by a couple of people that I haven't talked about the rubber insulator that sits below the airbox. Well, there's a reason for that. We're going to take the airbox off now and we'll have a look at the rubber flap afterwards. So, as you can see, I've positioned the camera in a rather an odd angle, but hopefully it'll help you see the airbox a bit better. And I can get up from laying on the floor, and we'll start. So the first thing we need to do is remove the lid of the airbox, and there's a couple of screws around the perimeter. And they're actually a step screw. So we're just going to take all of those out. Okay. So you can see there's the lid. And there's the filter element. This filter element has been modified as per Graham France's instructions, and I've also installed the HRC style trumpets. If you want to know more about that, I'm afraid you're going to have to speak to Graham about that, but I will put a link in the bottom for those of you that want to get in touch with him. Also, with this having been a race bike already, the carbs have been upjetted to suit. So now for the bottom half of the airbox, again 3 screws at the bottom, and then there's the 3 bolts in here. I think normally these would be normal, regular bolts, but I've obviously replaced them with Allen bolts at some point. Finally, there's this little oil separator at the back. It needs to come off. And the bolt at the front that actually secures the airbox to the frame, stops it rattling around. And now we can lift the airbox out. Obviously, with this being a K model, as we lift it up, you can see, hopefully, how the tubes actually sit in the frame. Let's disconnect the breather tube. And there's the 2 holes, complete with the gaskets for the frame. So, I didn't talk about this, the infamous rubber flap. And you'll probably find on a lot of bikes, obviously including this one, that it's missing, and that is because it's a bit of a pain in the arse to fit. Gets in the way. You've got various tubes and hoses that go around it. But it is an essential piece of kit. Certainly on the earlier J models, because it serves 2 purposes. On the J model, it sits in here, and what it does is it provides a tray for the air coming through here to collect in, and then obviously, if you remember, on the J airboxes with the inlet sloping downwards, they literally draw the air up from this zone. The rubber shield also acts as a heat insulator to stop hot air rising from the engine and getting into the airbox. Obviously, a colder mixture is better. Colder air is far better than the warm air from a carburation point of view. On the K model, as you can see, it was left off on this one, and what the previous owner did was wrap the bottom of the airbox in heat-proof insulating tape. And also, because the airbox actually has quite a good seal into the frame itself, you're not going to get warm air entering the airbox, but if you've got one, it should still be fitted, again, to keep the airbox cool. So that's the infamous rubber flap, and it sort of fits in here. So you can see why a lot of people leave it out, because it is a pain. But there's, up here, there's a plastic fitting. It should sit underneath this hose, and you get various bits of wiring come through, including the temperature sensor. It sits around some more hoses here, and there's another fixing that goes into the frame to hold it in place there. They tend to, with age, they do tend to distort a bit with heat. They never really fit properly. But yeah, they are actually quite an essential part of the overall breathing system of the bike. Okay, hopefully that's covered that. And now the next thing I'm going to do is going to look at removing the carbs. So the first thing I want to do is take this plate off. And you can see, as I spoke about earlier, the modified air trumpets. Normally you would have a trumpet about this length here, and then there'd be a much longer trumpet in the centre. But like I said, if you want to know about the HRC conversion, which is what this is, you really do need to speak to Graham. He can supply the trumpets and give you all the information you need for jetting up your bikes. So this aluminium plate is fitted to the tops of the carbs by 2 screws into each carb, and then there's just these locking plates around the screws just to stop them coming undone, because let's be honest, the last thing you want is a screw going down your carbs and into your engine. They really can cause some damage. In fact, I actually bought a bike that had exactly that happen, and the screw destroyed the piston, and the various bits actually found their way through the crankcase and punched a great big hole in the crankcase. Okay, so that one's being a bit of a pig. So we're going to resort to the new toy that I bought myself, and it's a rubber hammer, but as you can hear, it's filled with shot, so that when you hit the end, the shot comes forward and it doesn't bounce off. And there we go, one improvised homemade impact driver. Really, you shouldn't be doing this to this style of screwdriver. You should only do it to ones where the shaft comes all the way through. But it's what I've got in the toolkit, and I said I was going to use the toolkit as much as possible. So that's what we're doing. And of course, just because it's what I do doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing, but it does work for me. So if you're going to do it, don't go too mental, because you will break something. And there we are, we can lift the plate off with the modified carb rubbers in. Okay. So that covers the airbox removal. Okay, having removed all the airbox, we're now going to take the carbs off. So what we need to do is undo the clips, the spring clips on the underside here that fasten the carbs to the rubbers, disconnect the fuel hose, and then we'll pull the carbs out. And the next video will actually be dismantling, cleaning and rebuilding the carbs. So let's get these clips undone. Now these clips are a pain in the proverbial at the best of times. They're not the most accessible things, and you really do need a torch to see them clearly. So what I'm going to do is, rather than post a video of me struggling to undo these clips and trying to hold a torch in my mouth and everything, I'm going to undo the clips and then we'll restart the video. Okay, so that's the clips done. Ideally I could have probably done with a slightly longer screwdriver, but it worked. So make sure you just undo them enough that you can actually move them around, that way you know they're loose enough. Let's remove that clip. And then we'll just going to ease the fuel line off. Whilst the carbs are still clamped in place, now is a good time to loosen off the throttle cable. As you can see, this one's been modified to run a single cable because it was a race bike, and actually the cable that's fitted isn't the correct cable for a CB400. One was quickly bodged on there after a crash and the cable broke. So hence we've got this funny little tower arrangement. Normally that bracket would be tight there. I've got another cable that we're going to fit once they're rebuilt, so we'll be fitting that later. And now if you just rock the carbs backwards and forwards, they should eventually release their hold on the rubbers. Unfortunately, they do tend to weld themselves to the rubbers. Okay. So another trick is to get the handle of a hammer and just use it as a pry bar, making sure you don't get anything trapped underneath it. Yeah, they can be a bit of a pig to get out. Like I said, they tend to weld themselves to the inlet boots. But the usual thing, bit of patience. Don't go hitting anything or forcing anything. just gradually work at it, and they should eventually come off. So this is probably going to be a bit of a long video whilst I wiggle them around. So rather than make you suffer watching that, I'll have another little break. I'll get the carbs off, and then we'll go on to the next video where I'm actually going to strip down and rebuild the carbs. So thanks ever so much for watching. Goodbye.